Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next session. The digital entertainment industry worldwide is embracing virtual production as a growing trend, offering numerous benefits. And today we're very delighted to have Ms. Muskkan Samtani, co-founder Shambhala Virtual Studio Limited. Mr. Tim Wen, marketing lead, HTC VIVE Mods. And Mr. Cesar Caceres, product lead, Brompton Technology Limited. They will share with us on the topic of power up the making of surrealistic motion pictures. And now, without further ado, I'll pass the floor to our moderator. Over to you now.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Power Up, the surrealistic making of motion pictures. My name is Muskkan Samtani, and I am the co-founder and chief business development officer for Shambhala Virtual Production Studios. We're coming very soon to the Greater Bay Area, not just with advancements in tech, but it's the amalgamation of tech and creative, which we believe is an absolute necessity to the final product. And one of the missions that we have to enable this is having a strong ground in education and training in this part of the world to ensure that virtual production has a great standing and footing in flourishing in this part. So without further ado, I also have the privilege of introducing our panelists here who've traveled some distance to be with us here today. So we have Tim Wen, the marketing manager of HTC VIVE Mars, and we have Cesar Caceres, the product lead of Brompton Technology. So let's give them a huge round of applause once again. And gentlemen, tell us a little bit about yourselves and the fun work that you get up to so our audiences are well aware.
Well, so I work with Brompton Technology. We are an LED processing manufacturer, and we are working in some of the main productions all around the world for virtual production, many other industries, but what we are talking about today is virtual production. And we're very proud of what we do and how we work with our communities, with our customers, because getting LED to good-looking camera, it can be quite complicated. So achieving all these things is very important for us. For us, it's all about the quality. And for me personally, what I do is I create collaborations. I create stronger bridges with partners and users, just because this is the most important part. As Muskkan was saying, it is very important to grow these communities, to grow our people. And education is the main part of it. Virtual production is not easy, so we are here all together to make it grow.
Fantastic. On to you, Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Wen. I am the marketing lead for VIVE Mars. VIVE, I don't know if you guys know, VIVE is VR equipment, and what people were using the VIVE trackers and putting it on top of cameras. And they were doing this during COVID when everything shut down. So when we're talking about growing the virtual production community, it's really about they actually used our product first. And then after that, we've created VIVE Mars, which is a more professional product so that they can use it when they start their virtual production stage.
That's excellent. So between the two of them, we have all the products that we need to get started, which is excellent. And, you know, I think we're going to learn a lot more about the work that is coming forward. But before we delve into some questions and discussions, let me shed some light on the evolution of filmmaking. You see, content creation over the past decade has seen a beautiful trajectory where, you know, whether it's hardware or software, we've seen some beautiful advancements from computer-generated imagery. We've seen some optical composting, we've seen virtual reality, green screen, and of course, the most recent has been virtual production. And when we say virtual production, today, it's all about the LED volume that we're talking about. Of course, virtual production has been around for a long time, but what we are at today is absolutely exciting, and we can't wait to delve into some of the areas with these gentlemen today on how we can bring this technology and make it a lot more available, not just in the Western world, but where we are here today. So if I were to ask you both in one sentence, what is virtual production today to you?
Well, I can guarantee you that we wouldn't agree, because nobody agrees in what actually defines virtual production. And it is because it's so new that this is still evolving and being defined. But for me, virtual production will be any productions that are created using a virtual world. Whenever you have the involvement of a virtual world in any means that you can use it, that will be virtual production.
Perfect, fantastic. Tim, what do you think? What comes to your mind first when you think about virtual production today?
I'm trying to say it in one sentence. Let's see.
There's so many, I know.
Okay, it would be using real-time engine to produce content.
That's excellent, yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with what we're doing real time today, and that's the exciting component. And of course, we'll delve in a little bit into Unreal Engine later on as well, as we cannot speak about virtual production without the Unreal Engine aspect of it. So let me get to my first question. To give a little bit of background in terms of where virtual production is today, a couple of years ago, we're talking about a few LED walls around the world. We had some studios that were popping up in the Western world, and they were so excited about this technology. And then we had the best user case that we could get, the Mandalorian series. And I think that's what got everyone excited about what virtual production could do. And as we speak today, there's over 300 studios around the world, and most of them in the western part, and we're hoping we'll see more coming here as well. So what do you think, kind of got started during COVID as a byproduct of, because we couldn't, social distancing was the restrictions, and we couldn't have filmmaking the way it used to be. People got into virtual production. Has that momentum dropped? And do you think that filmmakers are finding they're going back to their comfort zones with filmmaking, or are they still continuing with that momentum of virtual production?
I don't want to say that the momentum has dropped. Definitely slightly slower, but I believe that it's a very good thing because the industry is maturing. Virtual production is growing and maturing right now. So it has been really, really fast since The Mandalorian, that actually Brompton was involved with as well. It has been really fast. Everybody was building stages, and it is a very complicated technology. It's not that it's complicated, the technology itself, but it's so many devices are involved in these workflows. And we start with Unreal Engine that you were mentioning before, but it goes from Unreal to the media server that goes in the middle. For example, these guys, that is a company I used to work with. So you can have your media server tracking of this camera just to make sure that you know the position of the camera, how to use a camera, how to use the lighting for this environment, how to use the LED, just so you can actually achieve this realism that is completely necessary when you're doing virtual production, because you're trying to recreate the real world, and that's not an easy task, right? So all these devices and the communication bit with them and the synchronization bit with them and making them look like the real world is, is something that you have to learn step by step. And everybody tried to learn how to do virtual production really fast in 3 years. 3 years, I don't think it is time enough for something to mature enough. So now that 300 studios are around the world, some of them are huge, big investments. Large companies are making incredible investments in virtual production. And now that things are slowing down a little bit, is the great moment in which we will see things look even better, because people is going to start testing and developing in their studios that are built and are permanent. They will have the teams working in new workflows to improve and to make easier all these projects. So I think that we are in a great moment right now in terms of virtual production.
Excellent. And Tim, what are your thoughts?
Well, so if you're talking about whether it going down, meaning that it was a trend and then now it's kind of like not falling out of trend.
Do you think it was like a fad that just kind of took place during COVID because of the need of that hour? And do you think now it's kind of filmmakers are thinking, let's just go back to our traditional ways. Why do we need to learn a new way of being?
Yes and no. I think the trend that it's going down is actually one part that we have to be very wary of, is that when people just blindly go in, try to build a gigantic stage and then can't book it, and then their business falls apart. But if you look at virtual production in just from the advantages, whether it's even carbon footing, like, not everybody has to travel, and then therefore you can use less, oil and, harm the environment. Or if it's like car stage, which if you're doing car shooting, you're doing it in a very safe environment and you're not risking yourself, which is a very trending topic right now in Hollywood, that you should never ever, a life should never be spent just to make a movie, right? So all these kind of things make filmmaking more efficient. And then because of that, I don't think that's going to go away. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually want to add, because this is a very good point. virtual production is not just a replacement for filmmaking, for traditional filmmaking. And this is something that comes as well with the evolution and the maturity of this industry. It is just a tool, and you need to learn how to use it correctly. So in which occasions virtual production is more important, as Tim was very well saying, and in which occasions just go out and you do your shooting and use the real sun and use the real mountains and city to do what you need to do. But it is true that there are many, many occasions in which, I mean, there is a movie called, for me, I use it as an example quite a lot, Ballet Train. Renting the ballet train from Osaka to Tokyo should not be cheap, right? So if you want to do a shooting and then you try to be with the views of the Mount Fuji for a few shots, you have around 3 minutes if you are in the real ballet train. So if you want to do this shot and repeat it and have your director, your DOP, your lighting designer, everybody involved in how this is being done, virtual production is going to give you a much better, and I'm not talking about doing the train in virtual production. You can do your train in a real set, because this is a collaboration as well between the set designers and the virtual designers to make sure that the whole world is going to be used better. You can get your real train, or your set train, and then the outside, what you see through the windows in virtual production, and it's going to give you an incredible experience as a filmmaker.
Just to write off of that, I think also sunrises or sunset. Sunsets in filmmaking is the most chaotic and craziest schedule ever. Basically, everyone prepares for 4 hours, and then they can shoot for 20 minutes, 10 minutes tops. So they get one take and then they leave. And then they do again the next day. Whereas in virtual production, you can just make the sun come back up and then you can keep shooting. So there's a lot of these flexibilities that you just can't do on the outside.
And I think the beauty with that is, with the LED giving you that natural lighting, it solves a lot of that green screen problem. But I think the other thing with sunlight that I hear a lot is obviously getting the light right on your face the way you would be in the golden hour. So I think that's another next level challenge that the filmmakers are trying to solve with the sun itself particularly. But I think great points. Yes, you can't go into it blindly like you mentioned. The context of the situation is very important. So like you said, the bullet train, if you're just shooting into a cafe, like you were mentioning as well, why go into a virtual studio, So I think the context is absolutely important. And that brings me to my next question. Let's zoom into this region a little bit. And what I'd like to know is, your thoughts on adoption and scalability, especially in this part of the world. If we talk APAC or specifically Hong Kong compared to the Western world, what are your thoughts? Where are we at right now?
Well, this is very interesting because I spent my whole COVID here in Hong Kong, and I moved back to Europe not long ago. So I have seen a little bit of how the industry has been changing in different areas. And here in Hong Kong, it's a little bit slower. But it is slower because we have a different expectation of the budgets that we use. Now, everybody talks always about budget. Everybody, whenever you're talking about virtual production, they will ask, yes, but how much? There is a key thing that needs to be considered, and is that I don't believe it's budget at all. You have budgets. When people need it, they find the budget. You need the education so people understand why that is the budget. Right. So whenever you get people to understand this is what you are spending your money on, they actually find the way to do it. And the main thing that needs to develop here in Hong Kong, I believe, and in the whole APAC, to be completely honest, is education. It is first education in what you can achieve, but as well to educate these young technicians in how to achieve good quality virtual production. And it has to be good quality virtual production, because cheap virtual production doesn't look very good, right? And if you get a DOP or a director to your studio and you show them how this cheap virtual production looks, they're probably not going to do it, because it is going to be cheaper and a much better quality for them just to do it in the street or in the traditional ways, right? So it is very important that we learn what is the importance of having really good quality virtual production. And this is something that, right now I'm spending my life trying to move around the concept of why it is important. And actually we have a few examples, because the fact is that LED panels are not made to be in camera. It is just a very bad idea to do, but this is what we are doing at this moment. And we have a very good example here with our south screens. You can see, obviously, they look great for this type of occasion, but in cinematography, you can see that it is not enough. It's not what people is trying to use. You need to make it, as I said, you need to recreate reality. Any artifact is going to take the audience out of the experience that they are having with that movie. So how can we educate cinematographers, DOPs, production houses to learn that they can have so many benefits if they choose the right way of doing it?
So you're saying
You're
that it's
talking
still...
about the
moire.
Yeah, the moire.
But not only the moire, I mean, there is several things. Moire, the color, because color changes as well. So there is many things that are really, really important. And when you try to cut corners, it's just not going to work as expected.
Seriously.
Yeah, you're comparing virtual production with your own eyes. So the quality is just way high. So if you cut any corners, it's just too obvious that that you can't get through with it. So yeah, I mean, I guess for my answer, it's really, the really interesting thing is VIVE Mars is the most accessible camera tracking. So what we see is all the entrepreneurs and the people that are going into the market and interacting with them to see. And the really interesting thing, and I want to see if you also pick notice to it, is that the people who drive virtual production in different areas of the world are different people. Mm-hmm. So in like America, it's mostly like budget, it's producing, it's like, you know, the big Amazon decide that they're gonna, more like almost vertically integrated people that find that they can save a lot of money shooting this way. But there's other places that like India, which is the people who are driving it is really the cinematographers. And then the cinematographers are defining that I need this space. And it kind of makes a little bit sense to me because, you know, Bollywood is such a visual, like, movie, right?
Yes.
So then, you know, they have more power into that. Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Yes, I didn't think about it in that way, actually. The way I saw it I mean, I haven't been in India, but the way I saw it between APAC in general and the West is that the industry is very similar. It is just that it's in a different stage. And while it is slowing down in other regions, I believe that it is slowing up in this region.
Okay.
It is growing because the tools are easier and easier. I mean, we really focus and I have been speaking with many other manufacturers, and we are all focusing in making this process a little bit easier. As I mentioned before, it is not easy, right? It's so many devices trying to talk to each other. If you are 20 years old, the entry barrier is really, really high, right? So for many reasons, you have to make it easier somehow. Now, because systems are evolving and including Unreal is releasing better and better tools that is going to give you more and more realistic spaces. So, and I believe
That's
that
free.
Yes, exactly. And I believe that one of the main reasons why virtual production happened is because many things click. Yes, coronavirus, but Unreal was in a very good position already with ray tracing and in that time developing some tools that will give you very good and very realistic environments already. Now, Unreal 5 made a whole change so everybody could do even more realistic environments with other tools, with less processing. So all these things are just evolving and making it easier for creators of any level. I'm not talking only about top creators, but creators that are starting as well to achieve this really great content creation.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that Southeast Asia, Korea, and these countries aren't replicating what Hollywood is doing, because if you replicate what Hollywood is doing, it's probably a recipe for failure, because they have already down the pipeline guaranteed shows, which you might not have, right? So what we're seeing a lot with like the Southeast Asia, they're very innovative in a way that, well, they're like, okay, I can do filmmaking, but I can also use this for product launches. I can use this for events. So like they're finding different ways to fill up their studios as well. So that's really cool too.
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of the benefits that you have with virtual production as well in general. I mean, at the end, it's an LED volume that you can use for many things, exactly. So it's not only film, and actually some of the most successful studios that I have seen around the world, what they do is diversify, right? Okay, we have this production of 3 months that is for a movie that has a big budget. But in the middle, we can put this concert, we can put this broadcast event, we can put this ad for a brand. So just finding how to use your studio properly, all comes to education at the end. So just finding how to use this properly. If you have a studio that is 60 meters wide, 70 degrees, right? That is a lot of LED. Maybe if you don't have projects for 3 months, you want to break it down and create 3 smaller studios so you can do 3 small productions at the same time of something else. Or you can get your teams to test new workflows while recording at the same time a music video, right? So there is so many things that you can do in order to keep working and to keep developing in virtual production.
I mean, he brings up a really good point. I think the new trend is that your stage isn't permanent. So you really build for the job, and then you can build as big as you need for the job. So if it's like a car, then you build, just for like a sedan, and then you tear it down. So what that does is that you don't have to build the biggest, widest, and try to get on some publication saying it's the biggest of Asia. I think those trends are thankfully going down because people just use it for what they need it for.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is that LEDs are made for live events. That was the original use of LEDs, is digital signage and live events. But what this is bringing is that there is many companies that are extremely specialized in building them up and down. It is actually quite easy to build and break down an LED wall. I mean, concept tours, they take full tracks and put them on, exactly. Just in here, it has been built for a couple of days, and then it is breaking down, and you use the same panels in the next event, and in the next event, and in the next event, and you just keep doing it because they are very strong, and they are prepared for that. So definitely, it's about knowing how to use correctly your tools.
So I think, the market is semi-ready in that sense here is because we need to have that good quality virtual production because you don't want to end up with something that is not creating, good value for the ultimate filmmaker and content creator. So good learnings there for sure, and a lot coming for this market. I'm sure with all the tools that you're coming up with, they're going to be easy to use. Hopefully, we'll have a lot more traction in this area for virtual production. So coming on to my next question, this is one of the questions or at least one of the concerns that I was hearing. I visited a bunch of virtual production studios in Toronto in Canada, and I spoke to a lot of the business owners there. And one of the things that I heard them echo a lot, especially in the last 3 years, is the challenge for labor, skilled labor, to be able to execute virtual production with the LED walls, with the Unreal engines. Why would that be a challenge, and what can help that essentially, especially in this part of the world, again, to be specific?
Well, it's only been around for 2 years, right? So if anybody's like, oh, I'm a 10-year expert, that's not true. So basically, it takes a lot of people to support a virtual production stage. It takes, a virtual art department, it takes execution. So these all people need to be skilled up. And the opportunities are very, very little. It's either they go to America and they train and then they somehow come back. Unreal has a lot of really great workshops. But primarily what we're seeing for people over here is that they just run workshops and they just upskill everybody that's coming to their stage and then just hire from within. Is that what you see, dude?
Yes, absolutely. But I believe that it is the time for APAC. And companies like Brompton, we are doing huge efforts now in focusing in this region and making sure that we create this education so people can understand not only how to do virtual production, but how to do it correctly. What are the color workflows that you need to follow? There are many small things that you might not think about. What is the light coming out of the RGB panels, right? The light is not going to be correct. So how can you compensate that? We are developing a new technology called True Light to make that easier. So you can actually blend the foreground and the background elements in a much better way with your dynamic light coming from video as a source of lighting. So there is many tools that are being developed exactly for that. And right now, APAC is ready. And we have a lot of conversations with different manufacturers of different types, whether it is media servers, panels, tracking companies. So all these type of things, cameras, just to make sure that, and everybody's aligned. Everybody knows that it is about education. So I believe that it's going to be coming to APAC very, very soon, and things are going to improve. It happened in the US before because it was kind of easier. People was more open to spend a little bit more money to get this quality, and people is starting to open now in this side of the world as well.
but the passion is there, right? I totally feel. I mean, Elijah, Brompton is based, APAC is in Taiwan, so like we get to interact with it. Thankfully we get to interact with them a lot. And just talking about like these young studios, they're really entrepreneurs. In a way, Hollywood was very closed in the technology, and now Unreal just kind of went screw you and just kind of let everybody, have a hand in it. So now what you're seeing is all these like really passionate people who, want to create content, want to create a stage, and then so they're eager to learn. And when they have workshops, it's very valuable.
Yes, absolutely. It's the most important part. You need to create these skills for the younger people, because they're going to be the next generation of creators in 5 to 10 years' time. So we need to make sure that they have all the tools and all the knowledge that they need.
Yeah, I think the ecosystem needs to be, well developed before we can see that kind of a jump in the usage of virtual production. So coming to my next question, what advice would you give content creators who haven't yet delved into virtual production? So filmmakers, directors, producers, anyone and everyone who's kind of staying away and saying, I don't know if this is for me, and we want to do this. What would you tell them?
Learn Unreal.
Learn Unreal. The thing is that Unreal made it so easy for so many people, just because it's free. You can just take it and start playing. And I did it a few years ago, just take Unreal and start playing. And they have this Unreal University, I think it's called, that you can follow these different paths and learn about virtual production, or not virtual production, just anything that is game engine related. But the most important part is, if you are really very much looking forward for virtual production, learn Unreal, and mainly focus in real-time content. How to make sure that the real-time is going to be good. Because this is a big part of how to create your virtual worlds, how you optimize the world so you can actually have better textures and more polygons. So this is the most important part.
I would say also mess around with AI, just because I think we're in such an exciting time right now that you can just write a prompt and then, it'll get to you 80% of what you had in your mind, or even better. So if you can harness that and integrate it with, Unreal, I think you are very, very, way more efficient than us learning how to draw or that kind of skill.
Okay, and since we're talking about AI, we may as well delve into that topic, which is definitely an exciting space on its own. We heard some of the previous panelists, kind of touch upon AI and how that should be used. What sort of use cases are we looking at, and how we delve into that. What do you think is sort of next, and how can AI impact virtual production? Of course, besides the fact that we can prompt and tell the wall maybe, to switch to a different location and things like that. What else do we see with AI interaction?
We got 5 seconds. Okay, I can say it in 5. Using NERF, or basically using AI to create an environment for you to shoot in, is probably what the next big thing will be.
And again, there is tools being born, things like Quebric, where actually they focus in that, in creating AI prompts to create virtual worlds. And these things are going to be evolving very, very fast.
It's going to be really exciting.
I think we're out of time now. So great wrap up. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Let's give them a huge round of applause once again, everyone. And thank you for coming and joining us for this panel. We've truly enjoyed this conversation, and we hope to continue having these conversations, because APAC is definitely an exciting space for virtual production. And we're very passionate to make it happen here on a big scale. So looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone. And lunch will be served shortly as well. And you guys can make your way and have a short break. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Muskkan team and Cesar. What a wonderful share.